Evelyn Clarke had just walked out of the school for the last time when her phone buzzed. "I'm going to leave the children with you," said Rachel, her daughter-in-law, before Evelyn could say hello. "You don't do anything now, right? Watch them while I travel." "It's perfect." Evelyn smiled tightly and ended the call. She set the handset on the kitchen counter and thought of all the brochures stacked on her table. Canyon routes, Yellowstone maps, sunlit coastlines. She had waited 45 years for rest. "Teach her a lesson," she muttered to the empty house. The voice was part anger, part tired amusement. 45 years of teaching had made Evelyn patient, but also careful. She would teach a lesson, but not in the way Rachel expected. That evening, she looked at her framed retirement certificate on the wall. Evelyn Clarke, 35 years, Ridgeway Elementary. Her fingers traced the edge of the frame. Memories came in quick, bright flashes. Classroom chaos, the smell of chalk, the careful applause when a shy child read aloud. She sat at her small kitchen table and dialed an old number. "Carol," she whispered when the voice answered. "Yes, it's Evelyn. I need your hidden recorder trick. And ask your sister if she still works with child services." The words felt strange leaving her mouth, but she had taught generations to read the truth between lines. Tonight she would practice what she had taught. "You don't do anything anymore," Rachel had said, like an accusation and a fact both. That sentence cut deeper than Evelyn let on. She remembered the early years after David's father died on that ice-slick highway. Evelyn had been 22, suddenly alone with a 3-year-old boy named David and $6 in her purse. "Take care of our son," Richard had said in the hospital, fingers clutched to Evelyn's sleeve. Evelyn had kept that promise. She worked double shifts, baked pies for church sales, tutored long into evenings. She had taught her son to be kind and steady. Now her retirement check arrived like a thin paper promise, and Rachel treated it like the family ATM. Rachel arrived the next morning exactly at 7. Heels crisp, suitcase snapped. She did not cross the threshold. "Aiden, Owen, Chloe, Mia, and Leo Ben are allergic to dust," she said, listing rules like a judge. "Chloe won't touch anything green. Ben needs his tablet. Medicines are in the blue suitcase." Evelyn folded her arms and watched the children shuffle in. Owen's face was flat. Mia sniffed like she suspected the world smelled wrong. Ben scanned the room for the television. Rachel leaned close to Evelyn with venom hidden as politeness. "Don't fill their heads with ideas," she whispered. "I decide if they have a grandmother." Her heels clicked away. Evelyn felt something shift. She would not be ordered around in her own house. The children were perfectly trained to look bored and superior. At lunch, Ben cried because the Wi-Fi was gone. Evelyn had unplugged the modem. "The internet will not babysit you here," she told him calmly. "If you want it, you'll do something for it." Mia sneered. "You're a terrible cook," she said, parroting Rachel. Owen rolled his eyes and made a show of looking through his phone. Evelyn remembered Christmas when Rachel had thrown her turkey in the trash and said Evelyn's kitchen had cockroaches. She remembered David watching, exhausted, and saying only, "Rachel knows what's best." Hope locked itself in Evelyn's chest like a key. If she could open it, perhaps the children could still be children again. That first evening, with the house quiet after the noise, Evelyn uncovered a quiet heartache she had kept hidden for years. She padded down the hallway and found Mia sitting on the bed, clutching a small, folded photograph. "What have you got?" Evelyn asked in a soft voice. Mia froze and shoved the photo under her pillow. "Nothing," she said too quickly. Evelyn sat at the edge of the bed and asked simply, "Do you miss someone?" Mia's eyes filled, then hardened. "No. Mom always leaves." The sentence landed like a stone. Evelyn sat very still and thought of the times Rachel had left for weeks and months, saying it was work, seminars, conferences. Always important, always urgent. The next morning, Evelyn put her plan in gentle motion. She was not cruel. She was practical. "We'll have a schedule," she announced at breakfast, placing a list where the children could see it. "You will do 1 hour of reading, 30 minutes of outdoor play, 1 chore, and 1 hour of learning something new. Ben whined about the tablet. Tablet after reading, Evelyn said. If you read without fuss, we will bring the Wi-Fi back for a bit. The rules made the children blink. They had not been asked to earn a thing in the way Evelyn described. Rachel had given gifts and privileges instead of discipline. Rachel had bought attention with fancy dinners and gadgets. Evelyn wanted these children to learn the small, solid things she had taught for decades: courtesy, curiosity, and how to work. That afternoon, when Owen complained and tried to hide his phone in his jacket, Evelyn calmly took him to the window. "Tell me about your father," she said, like a teacher coaxing an answer. He shrugged and said, "He's at work." Evelyn nodded and asked, "What does he like?" Owen's lips twitched. "He likes engines and soccer." Evelyn smiled. "Then tomorrow we'll build a simple engine with parts. You'll see how things fit." He looked surprised at her interest. On the second day she began small, baking cookies, then reading aloud, then folding paper boats together. When Mia smelled the cookies, she softened. When Ben saw his name on the chore board, he stood still as if he heard a foreign language. Little changes arrived like slow rain. At night, Evelyn arranged to have Carol, old friend and a clever woman, slip her a small shoebox of gadgets. "These are recorders," Carol whispered, worried and amused at Evelyn's plan. "You'll be careful." Evelyn felt the thrill of a younger self who had once moved through a city with little more than conviction. She placed a recorder in her kitchen radio and another near the couch. She did it not to spy in a mean way but to catch Rachel's manner when she called home, the tone she used when she said mean things, the promises she made. Evelyn wanted evidence, yes, but mostly she wanted to understand the truth about why these children were trained to forget their grandmother. On the third day, while the children slept, Evelyn read through old bills and letters. There were notes about unable to pay notices for the roof, promises left unpaid when David was in school. Evelyn found an old envelope from David's sister, a little inheritance that had paid for his first car but not the leaking roof she still patched with buckets. She remembered selling her grandmother's locket once to buy a holiday turkey for a boy who smiled wide and didn't ask questions. The memory was sweet and painful. Evelyn would not cry over the past now. She would build a present for these children. She would show them what steadiness looks like, and quietly expose the flimsy promises Rachel had made. The next morning Rachel called. Evelyn's heart tightened as she answered. "How are my babies?" Rachel asked, voice dripping with fake warmth. Evelyn replied evenly, "They're fine. Reading, baking, and helping." Rachel laughed. "Helping? You're spoiling them with chores. They'll come home hating you." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Or maybe they'll come home knowing how to fold their own clothes." Rachel's laugh turned sharp. "Don't get ideas, Evelyn. I decide what's best for my kids." Evelyn let the silence hang. When she ended the call, she played back the recording device hidden beside the phone. The tone was colder on playback, crueler. She saved the file. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about proof. That afternoon, Evelyn found Mia sitting quietly on the porch, sketching in the dust with a stick. "What are you drawing?" she asked. "Home," Mia whispered. Evelyn crouched beside her. The sketch was of a tall house, but every window was dark. "It looks lonely," Evelyn said softly. Mia nodded. "Mom says we have to be perfect or Dad gets sad." Evelyn froze. "Your father?" Mia shrugged. "She says Dad can't handle noise. So we're quiet when he's home." Evelyn wanted to hug the child but simply said, "Here, come inside. Let's bake together. You can make the shapes." For the first time Mia smiled. Owen resisted the most. When Evelyn asked him to mow the small lawn, he muttered, "This is child labor." She laughed. "That's what my students used to say before they realized work feels good when you finish." "You're old," he said without cruelty, just confusion. "Why are you so strict?" Evelyn leaned on her cane. "Because I love you enough to expect something from you." He blinked, surprised by the word love. He had heard control, rules, and consequences, but not love. By the 5th day the house sounded different. There was still bickering, but it carried life now. Ben arguing over who stirred the cookie dough, Mia laughing when Owen got flour on his nose. Evelyn stood by the counter and whispered to herself, "This is what peace sounds like." The children didn't know it yet, but they were healing. Evelyn's phone buzzed again. Rachel's number. She ignored it. Rachel could wait. When Evelyn finally answered that evening, Rachel was furious. "Why didn't you pick up? I called 5 times. Evelyn said calmly. "We were outside. The children were planting herbs." "Planting herbs," Rachel repeated, almost choking. "You've lost it. My kids are not farmers." Evelyn smiled. "They seem to enjoy it." Rachel hissed. "You think this makes you a better mother than me?" Evelyn's voice hardened. "I'm not competing. But maybe you should ask them what makes them happy." She hung up before Rachel could spit another insult. That night, Owen came to her room quietly. "Grandma," he whispered, "can you tell me a story?" Evelyn blinked in surprise. "You want a story from me?" He nodded, climbing onto her bed with his blanket. She told him about a boy who built kites from nothing but paper scraps. "Everyone laughed," she said, "but when the wind came, his kite flew the highest." Owen's eyes softened. "Did he win?" Evelyn smiled. "He didn't need to. He learned he could fly." Days passed, and small transformations bloomed like shy flowers. Mia set the table without being asked. Ben stopped whining about Wi-Fi and started reading aloud from the storybook Evelyn gave him. Owen helped fix a broken garden fence. When they laughed together that afternoon, Evelyn's heart swelled with something she hadn't felt in years: hope. The house no longer echoed loneliness. It hummed with small voices and clumsy joy. On the 8th day, Carol came again. "Got news," she said, handing Evelyn a small flash drive. "Your daughter-in-law's company. Turns out it's under investigation." "Fraud." Evelyn stared. "Are you sure?" Carol nodded. "Miami trip. Not a conference. It's a getaway with her business partner." Evelyn pressed her lips together. Her instincts had been right. Rachel wasn't just selfish. She was dangerous. Evelyn didn't tell the children. Not yet. They deserved calm before the storm. That evening they watched an old movie together. Halfway through, Ben fell asleep on her lap, and Mia leaned against her shoulder. "Grandma," Mia murmured, "can we live here forever?" Evelyn's eyes filled. "You'll always have a place here, sweetheart." The next morning she called David. He sounded tired, voice dull with exhaustion. "Hi, Mom," he said flatly. "Rachel said you're making trouble." Evelyn took a breath. "I'm taking care of your children. That's all. She said you're turning them against her." "David," Evelyn said softly, "do you ever notice how often she leaves? How they flinch when she calls?" There was silence. "She's working hard for us," he said finally, like a man repeating someone else's script. Evelyn sighed. "Maybe it's time you found out what kind of work it is." That night, Evelyn replayed the recordings for Carol. Rachel's voice crackled. "If you ever want to see them again, you'll cooperate. I decide if they have a grandmother." Carol muttered. "That's emotional abuse, plain as day." Evelyn nodded. "I needed someone else to hear it." Carol squeezed her hand. "You've built evidence, Ev. You could report her." Evelyn looked toward the children's closed doors. "Not yet. First I'll protect them. Then I'll speak." The next day, Evelyn took them to the local park. Sunlight warmed their faces as they ran. For the first time, Owen kicked a football instead of staring at a screen. Mia climbed the jungle gym, laughing so loud other parents turned to smile. Ben fell, scraped his knee, and Evelyn wiped it gently. "It's okay," she said. "Pain means you're alive." He grinned through tears. "Grandma, you sound like a superhero." Evelyn laughed. "I've been called worse." That evening the phone rang again. Rachel's voice was tight. "I'll be home early. Tomorrow night." Evelyn's heartbeat slowed. Tomorrow the curtain would rise. Good, she said. The kids will be ready. Ready for what? Rachel asked suspiciously. Evelyn smiled into the receiver. A lesson. The morning Rachel was due back, Evelyn woke early. She baked muffins with the children, humming softly. Why are you so happy? Owen asked. Because today, Truth comes home, she said. He didn't understand, but he smiled anyway. Mia decorated the muffins with strawberries, proud of her work. Mom will like these, she said innocently. Evelyn only nodded. At 6 p.m., Rachel's car screeched into the driveway. She stormed in, sunglasses still on, perfume too strong. Where are my children? She snapped. Owen stepped out from behind the sofa. Mia clutched Ben's hand. We're here, Mom, Mia said quietly. Rachel frowned. Why are you hiding? Evelyn stood beside them. Because they wanted to watch you walk in, she said calmly. You think this is funny? Rachel barked. You've poisoned them against me. Evelyn met her gaze steadily. No, Rachel. You did that yourself. She reached for the remote and played the audio. Rachel's own voice filled the room. You don't do anything anymore. You're just old and useless. Rachel's face drained of color. Where did you get that? Evelyn tilted her head. From you. You forget I used to teach problem solving. Rachel lunged for the recorder, but Owen stepped forward. Don't talk to Grandma like that, he shouted. The boy's trembling voice echoed through the quiet living room. Rachel froze, shocked. Mia clutched her arm. Mom, why did you say those things? Rachel looked from one child to another, panic flaring. Evelyn said softly. Because sometimes adults forget children are listening. Rachel tried to recover. She's manipulating you, she said, glaring at Evelyn. You think this old woman cares about you? She's jealous of me. Evelyn's voice didn't rise. Jealous of what? The lies. The loneliness. She turned to the children. Do you feel safe when your mother yells? Mia shook her head. No, she whispered. Rachel's breath hitched. David arrived minutes later, alarmed by Rachel's frantic call. What's going on? He demanded. Evelyn handed him the flash drive. Play it. He hesitated, then listened to the recordings. His face hardened with every word. When the final file ended, he stood in silence. Rachel reached for him, but he stepped back. You lied to me, he said quietly. You lied about everything. Rachel's voice cracked. It's not what it sounds like. It's exactly what it sounds like, he said, eyes glistening. The house was silent except for the sound of Ben's small hiccups as he cried. David knelt and hugged his children. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have protected you. Evelyn stood by the doorway, steady and calm. Rachel gathered her bag, voice trembling. You'll regret this, Evelyn. Evelyn smiled faintly. No, Rachel. For once I won't. As the car engine faded down the street, the children turned to her. Grandma, Mia said softly. Are we safe now? Evelyn nodded. Yes, my love. Now the real healing begins. The days that followed were quiet, almost gentle. The children still asked about their mother, but less with fear, more with confusion. Evelyn answered simply. Your mom needs help, she said, and sometimes people don't know they need it until the world shows them. She didn't speak with anger, only clarity. David visited often now. He fixed the squeaky gate, painted the porch, and helped the children with homework. Every time he looked at his mother, gratitude flickered in his eyes, mixed with regret. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching fireflies, David said softly, I didn't know, Mom. I thought she was just stressed. I didn't see what she was doing to you, or the kids. Evelyn rested her hand over his. We see what love allows us to see, she replied. But truth has a way of waiting. He nodded, eyes wet. Thank you for not giving up on us. Evelyn smiled. A teacher never stops teaching, David. Not even after retirement. Rachel tried calling several times, her voice alternating between rage and tears. Evelyn never blocked her. She simply didn't answer. Each missed call was a reminder that control was slipping away from the woman who once dictated everyone's life. Evelyn filed the recordings and gave copies to Carol's sister at Child Services. "They'll investigate quietly," the woman promised. "You did the right thing." Evelyn nodded. It wasn't revenge. It was justice, the kind that protected the small and the voiceless. The following week, Evelyn and the children visited the library. Mia raced to the shelf of picture books. Owen wandered toward science magazines, and Ben sat cross-legged in the corner flipping pages about airplanes. The librarian smiled. "They love it here," she said. Evelyn's heart filled with warmth. "Yes," she replied. "They're learning to breathe again." Watching them laugh over borrowed books was the sweetest reward she could imagine. That night, David brought Chinese food and the smell filled the kitchen with life. "Remember when I was little and we couldn't afford this?" he asked. Evelyn chuckled. "You used to lick the soy sauce packets like candy." They both laughed. For the first time in years, the air between them felt light. The children peeked from the doorway and giggled at their father's terrible chopstick skills. "You're all hopeless," Evelyn said, pretending to sigh. But inside her heart sang. A few weeks later a letter arrived. Official, stamped and serious. Rachel's business license had been revoked. There were charges of fraud, pending investigations, and travel restrictions. Evelyn read it quietly and then folded it away. When David came home that evening, she handed him the envelope. He read it twice, his face pale. "I suppose this was coming," he whispered. Evelyn nodded. "Sometimes lessons come late, but they come." David looked at her for a long moment. "Mom, what should I do?" Evelyn answered gently. "Raise your children. Be their father. Give them what they need most, your time." He nodded. "And you?" She smiled, her eyes soft but strong. "I'll finally see the Grand Canyon. Maybe the coast road too. But first, we'll bake one last pie together." That evening, the kitchen turned into a scene of laughter and flower fights. Mia sprinkled sugar over the crust. Owen cut shapes in the dough, and Ben licked the spoon. "Grandma," Mia said suddenly, "can we call this pie the New Start pie?" Evelyn laughed. "That's perfect." When the pie came out golden, they all sat together at the table. No decorations, no fancy plates. Just warmth, safety, and love. Later, when the children were asleep, Evelyn sat on the porch, tea steaming in her hands. The wind carried faint laughter from their rooms. She thought of all the years she'd worked, all the tears she'd swallowed, all the quiet sacrifices that had led to this peace. "Richard," she whispered to the night, "I did what you asked. I made him a good man." Somewhere deep inside, she felt her late husband's presence like a soft approval. In the morning, sunlight spilled across the kitchen table. The children woke to the smell of pancakes, and David's laughter filled the house. Evelyn looked at them. 3 children, 1 grown man, a healed home, and smiled. The battle was over, but the lesson would last forever. Never underestimate a grandmother with love, patience, and purpose. She picked up her mug and said quietly, "Class dismissed."